Alrighty, y'all. What's going on, guys? Welcome back here to another stream. We're gonna do a little bit of an update here with you guys. Just gonna be hanging out here for a little bit. Ignore the ad. But hope everyone's doing good. It is good to see you all here. So we're gonna be doing a little bit of zip codes and stuff like that. I decided I want to because today we do actually have a decent risk out here for some storm activity out there, especially by the Midwest. Out there by Iowa and whatnot. We're going to be seeing quite a bit of storm activity later on. They did mention all hazards, tornadoes and damaging winds and hail does seem to be quite a concern today here. Actually, SPC did pull a 5% risk out here overall for today. This includes northwestern Iowa, southwestern Minnesota, southeastern South Dakota, and northeast Nebraska here. So that is that. What's up, Scottish? Saying hello. What's up? What's up, tabletop? Saying howdy, Andrew. Do I need to worry about anything severe weather next few days? Well, not today. Um, you're just shy actually of that marginal here for today. You're pretty good. Tomorrow you're good. Day after you're good. So yeah, next 3 days you're fine. Nothing big going on there for you. But anyways, yeah, we do have that 5% tornado risk out here for today. We are going to see the possibility for several tornadoes, being a possibility here. So hopping back over here to the winds, the wind threat for today, we do have a 15% risk here. For the potential of damaging winds, potentially getting between 60, 70 miles an hour. We are significant as of now. So wind should be within, once again, 60 to right around 70 miles an hour at maximum. Also, another 15% risk out here by Virginia, a little bit of North Carolina here in that risk area here as well. And then lastly, in terms of our hail threats, we do have a hail threat. The main threat's up here by the Central Plains and the Midwest here, with another 15% risk overall. So that is what we are looking out there for. Alrighty. Let's see what's up, Jill. Welcome, my friend. Hope you're doing good. Let's see here. How is Northern temp? How is hold on? How is Northern looking for tomorrow's? Uh, I am sorry. Oh, Northern Indiana. Okay, it's about to say Northern where? Nah, but I got you, my friend. Let me pull up this. We don't have our soundings up right now, so we're not gonna pull any soundings. But I will give you the overall breakdown and basically what you can expect here. So let's do your zip code here really fast here. By the way, guys, if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. It'll be greatly appreciated. We'll make sure you guys are staying weather aware and weather prepared. So you, my friend, up here in northern Indiana, we're looking pretty good today. Tomorrow, though, we do got to be weather aware. We actually do have a level 2 slight risk here for tomorrow, in which we do have quite a big slight risk here tomorrow, in which you're kind of in the middle of it there. So we do need you to be actively weather aware tomorrow. Tornado probability does exist. However, it's nothing super crazy. We are relatively low end tornado threat for tomorrow. But it does exist out there, and we are going to need to look out there for that. Especially in terms of hail, we do have a pretty small hail threat. 5% risk out there for hail between the possibility of 1 to 2 inches in diameter. As of now, there is no hatch risk or anything like that for the hail threat, but we do actually have a little bit of a greater threat for hail tomorrow along like western Nebraska here. A little bit of northwest Kansas, northeastern Colorado here. This is where the greatest shot for hail is going to be tomorrow. So hopefully that helps, my friend. Let's see here. K Jack saying hi, Andrew. What's up, my friend? Hope you're doing good. We've had crazy thunder and lightning storms here in Southern California all day. Crazy stuff. Well, I hope you're doing good, my friend. Yeah, for today out there, we're not seeing anything crazy going on. Oh, by the way, guys, we do have a new invest here. Um, or sorry, a new disturbance here. My bad. In the Eastern Pacific overall. So we do need to keep it out there for this. The good news is that it is relatively far away from land. It doesn't appear to be any big concern. Probability, of overall development here is a 20% chance over the next 7 days, and throughout the next 2 days, we are not really expecting the storm to really do much of anything here, but Just thought I'd go ahead and mention that here for you guys. So, anyways, but yeah, so that's that. But we're hopping back over here to today's threat. Once again, we kind of have two hot spots today. The main hot spot here for severe weather is going to be up here towards the Midwest and the Central Plains. The greatest risk for severe weather here is going to be up across portions of Iowa, obviously Minnesota, a little bit of South Dakota, Nebraska here. So, these regions we definitely need to be a little extra weather aware today. We do have two levels of tornadic concern, with the brown area here indicating a 5% chance probability for tornadoes. So basically, if you're in the brown, you have a 5% chance probability of having a tornado within a 25-mile radius of your location. So basically, what that means is that, within 25 miles around you, there is a 5% chance of a tornado dropping within that area. Now, for the dark green or for the green color here, this is a little bit lower probability. Same concept here. It is instead of 5% in the brown, it's 2% here in the green. But yeah, same concept. Like I said, basically just saying within a 25-mile radius of a given location, there is a 2% chance here across the green of a tornado dropping here. So, obviously the odds are a little bit lower here in the green. It looks like a big avocado, essentially. Which we do have the greatest concern once again here towards northeast Nebraska, southeastern South Dakota, southwestern Minnesota, and northwestern Iowa here. Right at the state lines here. So these areas here we do need to be looking out there for a little bit later on here, as we are going to be seeing some storms roll through. Now, looking at the radar now, hopping on over here, it doesn't really appear that we have a whole lot of convection really going on right now. You can see we have a little bit of shower activity here, but really not a whole lot of activity going on here at the current moment here. A little bit of storm activity along the eastern side of South Dakota. Out here by Iowa here, pretty clear. Now, a lot of these storms are going to be happening out here later on, kind of for some of the evening hours here overall. So let's go ahead and hop our way over here towards the north central U.S. here. I do want to bring up the HRRR model here, so we're going to look at kind of the reflectivity here. And by the way, you guys can see the top right here. That's where you can follow along with the timing. I will tell you though, is that this timing is in Eastern time. So basically, if you're across the local area here that we're covering for, in the Central Time Zone, just make sure that you subtract an hour from this listed number. Yeah, this listed number up here. Okay. So in reality, 8 p.m. Eastern would be 7 p.m. Central, which, is coming up here within the next hour. But anyways, so hopping over here to actually, we're going to take a look at the 18 UTC run here. Working our way down in time, you can kind of see once we approach away into the really early morning hours here, that's where the greatest potential, for the severe weather is going to be here. Once again, all hazards here, tornadoes, hail, damaging winds. We really can't rule all of that out here. So, we do need to be looking out there for that. But yeah, no, a lot of the activity here is really going to be firing off quite late. I mean, really well after sunset. Um, is whenever we're going to really start to see this line kind of come together here. Right around midnight or so is when this thing could really start to unfold here. But fast forwarding down in time here to tomorrow morning, this is right around 6 a.m. Eastern time or 5 a.m. Central. You can see this pretty aggressive looking Boeing segment here from the HRRR here. Now we're going to grab a little sounding here real quickly. You can see there is a little bit of a capping inversion, but we'll have to see if it breaks through. Which more than likely, given the latest guidance and everything like that, it does seem quite possible that we should be able to break through it. It's a pretty strong cap though. A decent amount of instability here throughout the atmosphere. Wind shear, honestly, isn't anything super significant, but it is enough for decent organization to occur. Decent looking photographs here. Once again, we do have a tornado threat here. So that is something that we do need to look out for. Is we could have some nighttime tornadic activity here going into tomorrow morning. Now, this is going to be fairly early, so make sure you guys have a way to receive warnings here, because this is going to be at nighttime. A lot of people are going to be asleep around this time. time. So, just make sure that you have a way to receive warnings, such as a weather radio, or, a local weather app or whatnot. Just make sure you get alerts from it. Because once again, this line here is going to have that potential. It is going to have the possibility to produce tornadoes and, all hazards of severe weather. So, we do need to look out there for that closely. Let's see here. Found by Chance says, "Hi, yeah, what's up? Hope you're doing good, my friend. It is good to have you here." So, I do want to take a moment here to hop on over here. I don't know if this, I don't think this one has it. Well, I was gonna look. Oh, here we go. Actually, we'll just pull up the surface base cape here, and you can see kind of the fuel in the atmosphere here. So, we do have a pretty good amount of instability here already, kind of in place here overall. Across a lot of these central plains, into the Midwest here. Think of this as the fuel for these storms here. We do have a really good amount of fuel currently in place across a lot of the states out here. And you can see as we work our way down in time, and as kind of that MCS develops here, for late tomorrow morning, kind of really early tomorrow morning here, I should say, just before sunrise, we do have this storm system here that really kind of just sweeps in and uses up a lot of that instability here, in which that's there is plenty enough fuel there, in which that's not going to be really a concern here. Is the fuel, is it definitely appears that we do have quite a bit of instability here, available. Now, grabbing another sounding here, once again, our lower level winds or just our wind shear in general isn't anything significant. We do have some decent mid level flow, which, could definitely allow for some organization to occur within these storms here. So, they're not going to be, a total loss essentially due to weak wind shear. But, we do have a decent amount here of wind shear overall, in which once again decent organization within these storms will be possible, given the fact that we do have a decent amount of instability. Once again, there is a bit of a warm layer, there's a bit of a capping inversion here going on, but sometimes these MCSs have no problem kind of pushing through that, due to really strong vertical velocities, really strong intake essentially. So that'll really allow for the potential of those just to break through, which we'll have to see. Of course, it could look a little different by the time we approach here. But regardless, once again, all hazards on the table here. We need to be weather aware. Just one thing I cannot stress enough, guys, is just please, please, please make sure you have a way to receive warnings, from the weather service here. It could be third party apps, it could be just any way to receive warnings, something that will wake you up and will get you alerted. The one thing that I would heavily recommend is getting a weather radio. Those are super super useful. You can program them to your location here, which it would be really really helpful if you did get a warning, and the alarms are loud enough to actually wake you up. So, that'll definitely be very very useful. So just make sure if you have one, turn it on. If you don't have one, I'd highly recommend adding it to your list here. But anyways, but yeah, so hopping back over here to the radar once again, taking a current peek at things here up across like Nebraska and whatnot. There's really not a whole lot going on now. We got a little bit of convection up here in eastern Kansas, a little bit of storm activity popping through. But once again, the main line here is going to be rolling through Iowa, kind of from the northwestern side to the southeastern side here overnight. And this is going to be a fairly late threat here, overall. Once again, like we were talking about here, hopping back to the models, I mean, this is going to be you know, quite late, in terms of timing here, or early. It just depends on how you want to look at it. Um, but look at this. Yeah, once again, HRRR here suggesting a pretty strong line here, like an MCS rolling through Iowa here, and the time here is 4 in the morning Eastern time, so 3 Central. in which this does continue overnight here. You can kind of see we do have an area of low pressure here over the Central Plains, kind of rolling through here from the Rockies. This is rolling to the east here overall. And you know what? This is actually going to cause for a bit of stormy conditions here. Across a lot of the plains and the Midwest over the next couple of days here, and that's something that we definitely should look into. Um, but yeah, my main concern is this line here that potentially could develop here later on. Now, hopping over here into the next or one of the most recent model runs here, you can kind of see actually has this thing pushed a little bit further west here. This is the 21 UTC run here overall. Um, in which we do have ourselves, that kind of system, that MCS here, kind of along further west, as opposed to a lot of the central side of the state here. That has shifted a little bit here from the HRRR. But the bottom verdict is, or the bottom line is that the model still suggested. Looking at the 22 UTC run, this is the brand new run, but yeah, it doesn't go out far enough here to look at it quite yet. Since this is new model data, it's just now coming through. But there has been a little bit of a trend here to the west. From what it does look like, from the 18 UTC run, really having that MCS across a lot of central Iowa. The latest 21 UTC has pretty much that big cluster of storms here, just being here along the western side here of Iowa overall. So and like I mentioned here, this does lead us to all hazards. Once again, tornadoes, hail, damaging winds, everything's on the table, unfortunately. And what's really concerning to me is the timing of this. Yes, all of this is a concern during the daytime, but this is going to be a nocturnal threat. This is going to be happening very, very early. A lot of people are going to be asleep during this time. So that's why I really cannot stress enough that you just please have a way to receive warnings overnight, because there is going to be that potential for a couple spin ups. Hopping back over here to the convective outlook here for today. I mean, the tornado risk here that we do have, it's nothing. Nothing significant, but it is a 5% risk, which, isn't the lowest. It's a decent risk. It is a decent risk here, with the highlighted spot here, the greatest area here in the brown, once again, indicating that 5% chance probability, of a tornado within a 25-mile radius of a given area here. Um, Anyways, what's up, Abby? Hope you're doing good. Let's see here. I wonder if it'll be a derecho. I'm not too sure. It just depends how long tracked it is here. I mean, HRRR does have it really tracking for a while, across a lot of Iowa. Um, it definitely looks like a quite decent MCS setup, that's for sure. What's up, Sydney? Say hi, Andrew. What's up, my friend? Hope you're doing good. But if you guys have any zip codes or anything like that you'd want me to take a look at, I'll be more than happy to let you know if you're in the risk here, because yeah, I know it's a little hard. Some people don't know how to look at the map and kind of figure out where they're at. So, if y'all want me to take a look at the zip code here, I'll be more than happy to look and see if you're in the active risk here for severe weather. Because like I mentioned, we do need you guys to be safe tonight, and we do need you guys to be weather aware. So that's why I really wanted to hop on here, was to just make sure that you guys are staying up to date, and that you guys are weather aware out there, and kind of know what is going on here. But yeah, taking a quick little peek here at the satellite imagery, I mean, you can see there's really not a whole lot going on here, across like Iowa and Nebraska. These regions here as of right now are pretty calm. We do have a little bit of a plume here in eastern South Dakota, kind of popping off here, as well as, a little bit of, convection throughout areas of like Kansas, and, quite a bit of activity along the eastern side of the country here, in terms of storm and, severe thunderstorm activity here. But, once again, this risk area here is going to be mainly during the overnight hours here, popping up here. So that's when we're expecting that. Um, let's see here. Sydney says my buddy is in Des Moines, Iowa right now. Gotcha. So yeah, Des Moines is just on the outside of that main tornado threat here. The threat does exist in Des Moines, but Yeah, this is a 2% chance, and the odds of you getting a tornado out here in Des Moines is pretty low. Is a 20 sorry, it is a 2% chance within a 25-mile radius of a given area here. So, the odds of Des Moines getting a tornado is pretty low. Very, very low, but the odds, still do exist out there. So, you shouldn't completely brush it off, but it's something that I wouldn't worry yourself to death over, because it is a pretty low threat for you guys. But remember, like I said, the threat does increase a bit in the brown areas here. That's where a couple of tornadoes could be quite possible. We definitely could get some activity out here. Northwestern Iowa, yeah, northwestern Iowa, southwestern Minnesota here, southeastern South Dakota, and northeastern Nebraska here. There is going to be that shot where we could have a couple of spin ups here. So, we'll need to keep it out there for that. Found by chance says, what is happening tonight or tonight in Kansas? Let's see, will it develop and make its way to northwestern Missouri? You gave me a zip code too, so let's go ahead and bring that up here. So 64505, gotcha. 64505. It decided it did not want to type it out for me. So let's do that again. 64505. Let's see here. Alrighty, so we're just outside of that main tornado threat here, which is good. So we're not in that main concern. No, we're not in any form of tornadic concern. We are though, right in that level one threat though. Right there for that area. Out there by Kansas City, and that's kind of where the level one severe weather threat ends. So the light green here indicates the potential for thunderstorms, while the dark green indicates the potential for severe thunderstorms. That's where the level one threat starts. And if we go to the yellow, that's a level 2 out of 5 severe weather threat. So you can kind of see, where that goes. The gray indicating no risk at all. The light green indicating a thunderstorm risk here. The dark green indicating a level 1 severe weather risk. And of course, the yellow indicating a level 2 severe weather risk, in which the risk level goes all the way up to 5 here at a maximum. Now, yeah, so no tornado threat out there, which is definitely good. Now, damaging winds, we do have a 5% risk out here for damaging winds. Um, we do got to look out there for a little bit of gusty winds. We could be seeing some of those gusts upwards of, right around 60 miles an hour or so. Thankfully there is no like hatch risk or, any significant risk for that going on. But we know the threat does exist for potential damaging winds here. Once again, worst case scenario, upwards right around 60 miles an hour, is kind of the ballpark in which, some gusty winds could get up to within those storms. And then, of course, lastly, hopping back over here to our hail threat here. Thankfully, nothing significant as well. However, we do still have a threat for hail, in the yellow indicating a 15% chance probability here, and in the brown here indicating a 5% chance probability here overall. Once again, no hatch risk here. So across both the brown and the yellow, there is going to be potential that some storms could contain hail between 1 to 2 inches in diameter here overall. So that is that's kind of the range for the hail threat overall. So just wanted to let y'all know that. Um, let's see here. Wendy says Omaha area here. Let's see. We're in the pattern of overnight storms here. Let's see here. A chance tonight. My dog is a big fan. I got you. Well, Wendy, make sure you stay safe though, okay? Because like I mentioned, these storms are going to be quite powerful, tonight, and this is going to be very, very early or very late. But hopping back over here to models, like we were just looking at here a minute ago, rolling in with the latest 21 UTC HRRR. The 22 UTC run is rendering, but you can kind of see here from the latest model that we have fully. The 21 UTC run does have that cluster, kind of rolling along the western side here of Iowa, in which, we are talking fairly early. This system really kind of gets a hold of itself right around midnight here. This is 1 a.m. Eastern, so this will be midnight Central Time out here. And that's kind of when this thing really starts to pick up here. According to the HRRR model here, that we do have. And then, of course, we do backtrack a little bit here to the 18 UTC run here from earlier. And you can see the big difference. Earlier they wanted this, MCS, this line of storms to roll through, a lot of the central sides here, which, now that's actually pushed a bit to the west here. So, there has been a bit of movement. And, by the time we do get to the point here, I would not be surprised. Maybe if we have another, a little bit of oscillations going on here, just, given that. But regardless, this is within the risk area here, and this area does need to be actively weather rare. Let's see here. Weather or Wendy says use a weather radio nearly impossible to sleep through it. That is very true. And yes, I totally 100% agree. Just make sure you guys eventually get a weather radio. If you have it, turn it on. Because it ain't gonna do no good if it's off. So make sure you turn it on. That way you can receive warnings and just know, when to take shelter and if you need to. Uh, because it is going to be a possibility here, unfortunately. What's up, Patty? Hope you're doing good. Good to have you here, my friend. But yeah, if you guys have any zip codes or if you guys want me to take a look at any area here, feel free to let me know. Once again, we're gonna just make sure that you guys are staying up to date and weather aware and all. And once again, the tornado risk here for today is really just isolated towards the Midwest here. With that brown 5% risk overall here. And of course, we do have that 2% green area here, which that is kind of a little bit lower. Of a risk here. 2% chance across the dark green, and 5% chance here across the brown. So odds are still fairly low, but once again, overnight, a spin up tornado or two cannot be ruled out here. And so we do need to look out there for that here. But anyways, folks, well, if you guys have any questions, feel free to let me know. I'm gonna hop on here, or I'm gonna stay on here for a little bit longer, but if you have any final questions or anything like that, let me know. Just wanted to hop on here just for a little bit here. Wasn't planning on doing a super, super long live, just enough to kind of let you guys know what's going on here. And, we might do some overnight coverage. We'll have to see how things go. So stay tuned for that here as, we'll probably go live, sometime probably pretty late here, I'd imagine here. Just, depends on how everything kind of, unfolds and all. But once again, everybody, I really appreciate y'all for joining here. Just gonna cut it down to a quick little 30-minute update here for y'all. Once again, if you guys are new to the channel, consider leaving a like and hitting that subscribe button. It would be greatly, greatly appreciated. And also that way you guys can stay up to date and weather aware. That'll be amazing. We just want you guys to stay safe. That's all what we're here for. We're here just to help you guys out. And we'll make sure to keep you guys updated with everything. But alrighty, everybody. Well, thank you all so much for joining. You guys have a wonderful rest of your night. Like I said, we'll try to go live here for this here tomorrow morning. So just please be careful. Turn on your no weather radios. If you don't have one, I recommend getting one. Just make sure you have a way to receive warnings, and make sure you have a way to get alerted. If there is a warning overnight, due to the activity here tonight, it is going to be quite possible for, all hazards once again, severe weather wise. But alrighty, everybody, thank you for joining. You guys take care. Have a wonderful rest of your night, and we'll see you guys here in the next one. Peace out, my friends. See ya later on.